Hi.
Hey,
Welcome, Sarah Thomas Moffat,
thank you.
cinematographer extraordinaire who works on like everything,
Pretty much.
commercials, TV series, a lot of documentary style and documentaries and TV movies and everything, a lot. And now moving more into fiction, as you were saying.
Yeah.
Uh, and then uh, major project is Amazing Race Canada.
hmm
So maybe you could tell us. I was curious, working on short films, has that informed your working on a series like Amazing Race Canada?
It's actually reverse.
Oh,
Yeah, for sure. All fiction is from real life, whether it's, science fiction or whether it's drama, murder mystery, it's all based on fact. And documentary is really the root of all story. And people get that kind of mixed up sometimes. So I started my career as out of college in Toronto, Centennial College, radio and television broadcasting. And it was a much different program. It wasn't a film-based program, but we did have a small film component in it at the end of the 3-year program. And we had Bolexes to shoot on. And we had no reds. There was no digital, did not exist. HD did not exist. Standard definition, Betacams existed, and film. So I came up in a world of film. And when you work in film, you get it right in camera as best you can. There's not a disposable mentality of delete, delete. It's just data. No, it actually, a roll of film costs a lot of money, and we've got to do this the best we can, and we get one take at it, or a couple takes at it, and then we've got to move on. When I was in college, I had 3 different internships. One was lifestyle travel show where I got to travel around Canada. It was called RV Vacation Adventures. And I was kind of like the PA, everything person, planning itineraries and, looking for places to travel in an RV. And then 3 of us would travel around and make this stuff. And then I worked at CBC as a compile operator. So I got to go to CBC and sit in a tiny little room with little computers and make sure all the commercials got on in the right time slots. And then I left CBC to go back to school. That was a summer job. And then my last internship was an internship at a company called Spy Films. And I'm not sure if Spy is still around. I haven't communicated with Spy in a long time, but they made very large budget TV commercials at the time. And I received an internship there that was very coveted at the time, which was excellent. I was a production assistant right away, but I knew I wanted to do camera. I came from a still photography background as a kid, just tinkering and taking pictures. And I got the internship, so I got right into TV commercials right away, and that was awesome. TV commercials at that time were like these mini movies, and they were these giant productions, and anything was possible in this short amount of time. And everybody worked really hard together and got it done, and then got out and then went on to the next one. It was quite a fantastic place and environment to learn, and what did I do from there? While I was in that PA, sort of position, I went to the Canadian Society of Cinematographers and got a student membership. And I took the CSC camera trainee program. And again, at the time, it was all on film. So it was a 10-day inclusive, like super intense workshop where we went to all these different rental houses and learned all different kinds of things about film cameras. But we learned how to be a camera assistant. We were given lectures by professionals, teaching us what to do to be a really good camera assistant, to be efficient, to have a system, to be attentive, to, anticipate what your other assistants or your DP needs. All that kind of stuff. So, loading magazines in the dark, So right from there, as soon as I got that certificate, people that I was PAing for started to hire me as a camera assistant. So then I just started to work my way up through the camera department in TV commercials. And my career has spanned over 20 years now. That was the beginning. A lot has happened in the middle. I've worked inside at rental companies as a technician. I've worked freelance as a focus puller. I've worked underwater as well. I've done a lot, union, non-union, features, indie, documentary, reality TV. And so that sort of brings me to today, which I feel like I'm really grateful for the body of knowledge that I've gained doing so many different things and learning a lot from a lot of different people, a lot of different genres. It was easier for me to acquire work as a cinematographer and establish myself in documentary. That was more accessible than establishing myself as a cinematographer in commercials. And even though I tried,
Right.
I do some now. I do a lot of branded content in the advent of the internet. Everything's online, right? So branded content is different than like a large budget TV commercial. Two different realms again. But it's just an interesting journey when you sort of look back. And again, I feel like I have. Yeah.
Why you think you might not have been able to get into cinematography on commercials specifically?
Well, commercials and dramatic series, and that world at that time, we're talking 20 years, right? And I don't want to say it out loud, but yeah, gender has a lot to do with it, you know? And that's a whole other discussion that is still happening now. And some changes are happening now in the industry, and at a government level, people are recognizing that diversity and equality, both in race and gender, need to happen. And at a government level, people are working at it, and that's great. And a lot of us on the ground are doing things as well to be a part of the change and be the change that we want to see and create. So that's really positive. So just sort of focus on the positives.
Awesome. And yeah, and I heard you say that you were working on Amazing Race Canada. In fact, you were leading, like you're the, what was your title exactly?
I have done series DP work for channels like History Channel and Discovery Channel. On Amazing Race Canada, I had the privilege to work for the series DP, Ryan Shaw, who's an awesome guy and just an incredible leader. And it's really great, you know, having leadership skills yourself and then working for great leaders as well, because there's just such a camaraderie and understanding and achievement that happens that's really rewarding. And that series, I was one of many. There were many camera people on that show, and many sound people, and many producers, and it's such a huge moving mechanism, Amazing Race Canada. And it's something that I'm very proud to have been a part of this year in their 5th season in Canada. What I did discover just through information coming to me was that I was actually the first woman to be hired throughout the entire series. Women have been hired on the franchises of Amazing Race to shoot in locations, but it was difficult to find people, not just women. It was difficult to find the right type of person that can actually handle that type of work, because it is grueling. It's very physically demanding. It's mentally demanding. It's emotionally demanding. And you still have to shoot, or you still have to record sound. You still have to field direct. You are managing the teams as you work with them as well when you're on the ground, and the support system of the entire company is amazing. Like, it sounds sort of like cliche to say amazing. It's Amazing Race, but it is. I just was so impressed. I was so impressed with everybody.
Can you give us a little sample of what that might be like on the ground shooting?
Yeah.
In that moment, like what you're doing. Give us a tiny taste, because we see what's in front. But it would be great to know.
Yeah, for sure. The series is on CTV right now, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's doing great, and it's all over social media, and you can catch video clips and things like that. So when we're on the ground, it's as a runner with the teams, we are in our own race as a crew. We are, again, fully supported by the production. But when we're going from location to location and event to event, we are with them and we are in it. It's like an eco challenge, but reality TV, and that's why it takes a certain kind of person to be able to handle that type of work. It's not for everybody, but we who sign up for that, we feed off that adrenaline and we love it. And what happens, in a general perspective is that I'm with a sound person. And this year I worked with a really great sound person named Darren Snowden, who was awesome. And so he and I were partners and we supported each other every step of the way. And Darren has my back, I have his back. And Darren's carrying a pack that is 30 pounds of batteries and discs and some food and some water, and we each get a raincoat. We're basically wearing the same clothes for almost 30 days. And we have another pack that has some extra clothes for us that sort of travels at another location for us. I like to pack some of my nutrition, my shakes and power bars and stuff just to keep me going. And then we're on the ground and I'm carrying a 25-pound camera on my shoulder and I'm physically running. We as a team are physically running after the contestants. You can see on the show that they are running. They are in a competition. It's a competition and they're very, very competitive. Everybody's very, very reasonable and understanding that they are on a show, but they're also in a competition. And the excitement, the adrenaline gets going, right? And so we're going for it. And we hold nothing back and we're right there. So yeah, it's live action for 30 days. It's the longest race you'll ever run. And it is something that you love. You feed off of it and it's a rush.
That's awesome. We got a comment from Joshua Young, and he was saying that he's really appreciating the fact that we are doing spotlights on artists like you.
Hey, thanks.
Because it's awesome. Yeah, and if anyone has questions out there that they want to ask Sarah directly, just type it in and on the comments, and I'll see it, and we can ask her directly.
Awesome.
Which is the amazing thing about this, yeah. And so you were saying that documentary style is like the root, and now your interest is kind of also moving into fiction, and maybe you can comment more about that.
Yeah, for sure. Because I came from a fiction background, I came from a fiction world as a camera assistant, I learned how to light. Light and photography was always of interest to me by instinct, by nature. It was something that I played with as a child, and watching light, in natural environments, taking photographs of that and having those photographs printed and processed, mostly on slide film, by my father, who would then sort of coach me on the photographs and say, well, this is contrast and this is exposure and this is what happens when you do this. And when I was a kid, I was just sort of like, oh, that's, I just wanted to push a button and, kind of tinker with something. I wasn't processing all the information he was telling me at the time, but I was listening, and so it started to sink in the more that I got into the world of filmmaking. I was like, oh, that's what he was talking about. I get it now, so all those little seeds that were planted when I was a child started to, ignite when I was a teenager and then in a young adult and being a camera assistant and things. When you move from natural light environments into a larger fiction world where there's lights and, all kinds of equipment, and they recreate these environments that look natural, that was another fascinating step of observation for me. Then I got to learn and be a camera assistant for some really great DPs that were focus pullers at the time that are out there now doing fiction and longtime friends of mine. And also some men that are not alive anymore, like Derek Van Lint, who he shot the first Alien movie. And so I got to hang around with men like that when they were older, doing TV commercials towards the end of their career, and watch them light simple things like coffee and donuts, but it looked like a feature film. You know, and they still use the
and
same.
They got 1,000 takes too.
Yeah, and that's why they were hired all the time, because they were just brilliant, and to watch them work and hang around them and talk to them was so valuable. And there's such an asset in knowledge there that is not something that the digital world has yet. You know, the film world has that, and those cinematographers that are in their veteran years, that are masters at this, that came from film, guys like, anyways, I'm sort of blanking on names right now, but anyway, you were like Roger Deakins out of the UK and Dean Cundy out of the US. Like, these men are just fantastic at what they do. And yes, there's a few women out there as well that do it, and that came from a film background, that are veterans as well. And to watch their work and listen to them talk about it is a whole other ballgame. And that's where I learned. That's what I grew up in. And all of that stuck, right? So I find that taking that knowledge into a documentary reality TV world to make a living, because we need to make a living, and we need to explore those avenues of art and have adventures. And I've been grateful for so many feature documentaries and that I've traveled on, and reality TV shows that I've traveled on, and they've won awards. I've got a lot of really great acknowledgement because of my work on those. And one thing I'm very proud of is that those producers and the executives of those shows turn to me and say, "Thank you for bringing cinema to my reality TV show." And I'm like, awesome, and that kind of gives me goosebumps, because it's happening, that everything that I absorbed in the beginning of my career, and all that time and hard labor that I put in learning and listening, is now being able to have practice, and I'm now able to raise the bar on productions, that otherwise might see themselves sitting here and they can achieve this. And I like to step in and say, no, we can achieve this, and really lift them up. And I love doing that. One of the things that I like about cinematography, whatever genre it is yes, raising the bar and challenging yourself. And I think that also comes from being an athlete, which is another reason why I can do a show like Amazing Race Canada, and you push yourself, you challenge yourself. You're always interested in what is next, where can I take my limits, and how can I break my limits, and how can I imagine something bigger that's outside of my box that I've never done, and see if you can do it. And most of the time you can, and yes, you'll fail, but the more you fail, the more you get back up. And the only people that have really mastered anything in their lives have failed 1,000 times before they got it right, And so that's where I'm at. So I feel like I'm at this transition now in my career and in myself, where I'm able to really put all of that exercise that I've done for 20 years to task now, and I've proven it to myself in the world of broadcast reality television, like Top of the Game, broadcast reality television, to, feature Top of the Game documentary filmmaking for film festival circuits. And I'm really proud of that. And now at that level, I want to transfer that over to scripted and get into that type of storytelling, because I just want to expand myself, and I love storytelling, and I love the world of scripted, and the crews that I get to work with again, that I used to work with when I was on commercials or fiction, when I was a camera assistant. When you work in doc and reality, the crews shrink because you're traveling and you have to be more finite. There's less time and you have to move faster. You have one chance to get something, so you become very extremely efficient, right? And that's something I'm also very proud of. I am extremely efficient, but I'm also very patient, and in documentary, you're dealing with real life people that you have to have an amazing amount of patience for. And you have to have an amazing amount of patience for yourself and your team in remote locations where you don't have the necessities that you're used to in your Western culture that we live in. You don't have those luxuries in a lot of different countries that I've worked in a lot of very, very challenged places in the world that have a lot less than we do. So you become, I feel, more well-rounded as a human being, as a cinematographer, more knowledgeable, on efficiency and communication and patience. So now I can put all of that into a scripted world and really, really expand that self-expression as an artist of light, of the tools that I get to access in a scripted world that I don't get to access in a documentary world, or a reality TV world, because there isn't the efficiency of time for us, it's different. But that's the beauty of it, you get to explore those differences. So the scripted world is exciting.
Joshua has a quick question, again, relating to light. He says, have you noticed through the years, as you continue to evolve as an artist, how has new experiences or projects changed your perspective on light? Or has it changed your perspective when to use it or not? How to shape a story with it, etc.? I guess I'm asking generally, but also more towards fiction, unless nonfiction has informed fiction and vice versa. Anyway, I don't know if you can.
So let me just reiterate the question so I understand it. So how has my previous experience informed how I may use my new experiences and going forward?
Yeah,
Is that sort of the general?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. How has your perspective on light evolved with all your knowledge?
Yeah, for sure. I just saw his text. Thank you. Sorry. It's okay, Josh. So, and one other question I wanted to ask: how do I share this on my feed while we're doing this? I couldn't see where your window is.
Well, so on our face, I don't know if you can do it as it's live on yours, but I believe once it's done, then I believe you could share it.
Oh.
I'm not. You could try this. I don't know if you have the Facebook window up right now.
I do.
If you do, okay. What happens if you press share underneath?
What window? Where are you broadcasting to? Are you broadcasting?
No, I'm talking about on Facebook proper.
Yeah. But what Facebook page are you broadcasting this to?
Oh, on First Weekend Club.
Yeah, we're on First Weekend Club. That's what I thought. That's where I was looking. But let me refresh the page.
I don't know how.
I actually don't see it. You're on your First Weekend Club page is just the usual posts. Oh, there. Now it's down. It's down the page. Great. I am going to like it, and I'm going to share right now. There we go.
Okay.
Awesome. So
there we go. And hopefully maybe it'll live simulcast on your page.
Yep. And I'm going to go check out. Yeah, there it is on my page. Awesome.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Well,
Great.
Here, do that on my page too then?
Yeah, you can totally do that on your page.
Oh, yeah, and I see. Okay, so First Weekend Club.
There's a latency, so there's a bit of a video delay, but that's okay. Okay, so that's...
And then then you can see Joshua's question there, perhaps.
I don't see it on my chat, but I'll go back to your chat.
Okay. But anyway, I think...
Great. So this is a first time Facebook Live for First Weekend Club, is that right?
No, we've done many Facebook Lives, but it's the first time we're doing it as a split screen, so that we're
okay, cool.
In different places. Like you're in one place and I'm in another place.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's working. It looks great. Yay.
Okay, great. Okay, technology.
We're getting there. Okay, cool. So let's see. Where were we? Lighting.
The evolution of your perspective on light.
Yeah, great. So evolution of lighting. For me personally, again, it started with natural light, ambient light, shooting a lot of slide film, Ektachrome film in a still photography camera, and really learning how to use the mechanism of aperture and shutter speed alone. And that's all I could control in that old still photography camera. My dad gave me these old bodies. He had one, an FTN Nickermat body. It was this big heavy metal body with these big old beautiful lenses that I still have, and it still works. You know, and it's a beautiful piece of old equipment. That's what I learned on. That was the first thing I started taking pictures on. And I used to carry that everywhere, but then this happened. And, you know, I was finding that I was not enjoying the moment of the light in a certain place versus trying to take a million photographs of it wherever I would travel. And so I actually, because I've done that so much previously in my life, I'm now not like that so much anymore, where I just take simple little pictures, but I try and be present and really log the memory of what I see as the light in you know, in my mind and in my mind's eye, so that when I look at that again in a certain situation, especially in a scripted world, I can pull, instead of looking at a picture, which is efficient in ways, but for me, it comes there, an emotion transcends when you have it in your mind versus seeing a picture, you know, on your phone as a piece of reference, you know. So that emotion will transcend from me to the environment that I'm trying to create for a story with a director. And that emotion then transcends to the audience. And that's one thing that I picked up as a child as well. When my father first started processing film for me, and getting just prints, I'd take pictures at family parties and stuff like that, just run around with the camera and, you know, take pictures. And then those pictures started to come back, and I would see my family members in pictures, and then I would give those pictures to the family members, and they weren't amazing photographs, but it was somebody laughing, you know, or two people talking, or something happening at the party. And when I gave that photograph to that individual and they had an expression on their face of enjoyment or love or happiness, then that was also a moment in my childhood and my teenage years where I started to see the follow through. It wasn't just this box and this piece of metal that I love tinkering with, but it did something else. It actually went further. It went from what I was seeing as an individual and as an artist through this mechanism that helped me capture that and translate it to somebody else as a form of communication or sharing something. And that, and their response to that capture of themselves, that was when like a bigger light bulb went off. So, you know, and this all relates to light, because even our eyes, what we see, what I see of you on the computer, it's actually a reflection of light. I'm not seeing you immediately as you are. I am seeing the light bounce off of you and bounce into my eye. And it is a millisecond and a microsecond of time that takes to happen, but it's still a reflection. Everything is a reflection of light, right? And it's that if you get into the science of it, that's fascinating. If you really want to geek out on it, like I do sometimes, it's fascinating. The science and technology and how technology exists today is fascinating, of how the real science of nature has evolved and evolution has evolved. But then you implement all the emotions, right? And how does that light affect somebody's emotional state? And how does that reflection of light affect, how do you capture that reflection of light affect somebody's emotional state? And as a cinematographer, I feel that really now moving into scripted work is where I have a different audience, you know, from a reality TV audience that is entertainment per se versus a documentary audience that is maybe an audience of a deeper or different emotion and an opinion, you know, an educational audience. And all of those, and scripted is an audience of escapism. I feel like I love scripted work. I love action movies that don't really have great stories sometimes, but they are escapism, and when you get into drama with great actors and great stories and you get deeper into that environment, it's such a pleasure to create a lighting situation around a person that has such an amazing life story or story to tell through the character that they're portraying, and provide that space for them to be, so that the emotion that they can emulate, that you can house them in with light, and that then all of that together transcends to the audience, and the audience has a different experience, and then the audience takes that experience out into whatever they're doing and shares it however they share it, whether it's a life-changing film, a story, a fiction story based on a true story, which are really fascinating. I like those ones the best, where it's a recreation of a real life story. And it can just change the world, like literally, put a stop to everything. And that's documentary. That's, that story is rooted in documentary. It's a real life thing, All fiction is from documentary, all of it. And it's fascinating. Light is a part of all of that. You can't separate one from the other. And it's interesting if you move into animation. Animation is something that fascinates me as well. And I've loved cartoons. Everybody loves cartoons, right? You grew up on cartoons. But I know I know a few people who are cinematographers who work with animation. But one specifically is a woman named Jerica Cleland, who is in BC. She travels a lot with her work. She's incredible. She came from a gaming background. She worked for Pixar. She's now up in Canada working with all kinds of projects. She's amazing. And her mission, when she first started working for Pixar, she worked on Finding Nemo. And she saw, when she moved from a gaming world into an animation world with a cinematographer, mindset, she was like, wait a second, why in animation is the lighting in a different department than the camera design of the same shot? Why are these people not communicating? And it's just traditionally in animation, that's how things happened. One layer of animation was created by one team. The next layer of any animation, hand-drawn, was created by another team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So that evolution of workflow, although it expanded, it didn't really change. So Jerica's worked on really changing that evolution of the workflow in animation and bringing those departments together, because and a lot of other people have too now, but it's that emotion that has to translate. You can't decide a camera angle without knowing where the light is. Like I can't say, sure, here's a room that I'm sitting in, and we're going to put the camera over here, and we're going to shoot this person walking in here. Well, let's find out where the light is. Let's see where we can put the light. Or if we don't have control over putting the light in a certain place, how can we reframe the scene so that we can make it work best for them and for light? You know what I mean? Like light is such an emotional thing. It's from a candlelight, a single little flicker of a candle, to a massive fireball like the sun. The intensity just is a completely different emotion. And you can think about that, just a simple candle versus the sun. What do you feel in those two different situations, right? So a simple little light source that could be on set, creating, a small intimate scene, to, a full-on comedy routine where there's lots of bright light and, and sure, there's still shaping and things like that and mood, but there is light, How does each emotion in each scenario respond in the different light? I couldn't put, two actors in Seinfeld, in a huge comedy routine that is lit all the time, by candlelight, and expect that to be funny in a certain situation that doesn't make sense to that moment. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't work, you know, unless the routine was a comedy where their power went out and they just had a candle. Like, it's different. You know what I'm saying? So it's,
and
light
you feel it,
yeah.
and then the audience feels it as well when you're successful in recreating it.
The biggest reward is, you know, that the project is complete and that, you know, it's out there and being visible. That's a huge first step. It doesn't always happen in the world of indie filmmaking, you know, so it's a real reward when it actually gets complete, when you've got a great producer on board. I absolutely value amazing producers who push projects, and they are the fire behind the success of the story and everybody's careers on that team. Because if they make a film and we all put all of our energy into an indie project, and that indie project makes it into festivals, and it's that producer cracking that whip and doing that festival circuit, the director gains from it, the cinematographer gains from it, you know, wardrobe, hair and makeup, art department, editing, sound, everybody can gain from that credibility that the film has earned in a festival circuit, even if it's an indie production film. So producers are essential. Good producers are like, you treat them well because they work their butts off to get the money together, to do the projects, to get it out there, to get it visible, to do another one, you know? And that is a huge accomplishment, you know, that's very rewarding in the process. The audience's experience of that is the next, you know, big expansion of that payoff, right? Because again, if the audience resonates with the film and the story you're telling, the producer's work and everybody else's work is solidified. It had a purpose. It worked, right? So then guess what? We get to do another one, you know?
Right.
So yeah, it's a huge, everything's so connected, everything from light to the cameras, to the direction, to the actors, to the story, to the writers, you know, everything's connected.
I'm wondering if there was one thing that you wish somebody would have told you when you were just starting out, having all this perspective now.
You know, it's interesting as I look back on my career so far, that's just been 20 years. And I look ahead and what I want to achieve now, and the confidence that I have now, the knowledge that I have now, and the trajectory that I can see for myself now, the doors opening up for women now that were not open. Face it. I mean, you know, yeah, I'll say it out loud. They were not open for us, you know, and we tried. And we're still here, which means that we stuck it out. Those of us that stuck it out are still going. And so guess what? Awesome. We can open more doors for other people as well. And that's one of my personal missions, you know. And, you know, I don't know if I wish that somebody in the past would have told me that it was going to be difficult, because I may not have stuck it out. And it was difficult. And sometimes it is difficult, you know, but it's still, if you're really passionate about it and this is what you really, really, really want, then you can do it, but it's not going to be overnight. And if you think it's going to happen overnight, then you are a rare case and you have somebody there opening doors for you. If you don't have anybody there opening doors for you and you are just slaving away yourself, it's because of passion and you have to stick it out. So it's hard to say, you know, what do I wish somebody would have told me at the beginning of my career, you know? And one thing one person told me was that it was a focus puller I was working for at the time when I was a second camera assistant in commercials. And he said, Sarah, you got to be an asshole. There's only assholes in this business. And if you're not an asshole, you'll never make it. And I was like, you know, and I was actually kind of upset by that. And I thought, you know, I wasn't upset, but I was just sort of like, I was confused. And I was like, wow, but I'm not an asshole. And I don't want to be an asshole, you know? And so, and you know what? He was right though. There's a bigger picture to what he was saying. You just have to have a tough skin, you know? And I have built up a tough skin, a very, very tough skin. But I've also learned to know where to navigate, you know, that toughness now, because it can lead you in the wrong direction, you know, and that's a whole other bigger conversation on how the industry used to function and how we're all trying to make it function now as a better work environment for everybody.
All right. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us, and we'll have to keep in